All right, grammar scholars and future grammar teachers of America, this video is going to serve as a little bit of a reminder about what gerunds are and what they do, and then it'll be a little push forward into something that we'll see about gerunds, which is that they can have other words that go along with them. They can be gerund phrases in the same way that we see participles. If there's anything to describe or modify them, we include all those things together and call it a participial phrase. Gerunds are going to have that same situation. They can have their own modifiers, their own objects, and those things all together will go together as a gerund phrase. Some things to remember about gerunds. They are always ing verbs, even though they're not doing a verb's job. Remember, these are verbals, and that means that they are going to be forms of verbs, but they're doing different things than verbs normally do. So the gerunds are going to be ing verbs, but they are doing noun jobs. So a gerund in a sentence could be a direct object, could be a predicate noun, indirect object, object of the preposition, or a subject. And those gerunds, again, are ing verbs, but they're doing those noun jobs in a sentence. So this first sentence, running away was a mistake. We usually look for prepositional phrases first, and there's none really to see in this sentence. And so now we want to find a subject and a verb to figure out the flow of the sentence. But sometimes if you're not used to seeing gerunds in the subject spot, it's a little bit difficult to find a subject right away, because you see a verb here at the beginning of the sentence, you see a verb out here later in the sentence, and it's kind of weird. We don't know exactly what to do with it. So if you get in that situation, you're not sure about the subject, then go find the main verb in the sentence. In this sentence, something was, that's a linking verb, and a mistake is a predicate noun. Something was a mistake. And so if we're working our way backwards from the verb, we could think, okay, so what was a mistake? And in this sentence, it's running. Running was a mistake. So that is an ing verb. It's not the main verb of the sentence. And so that means that it is a gerund. It's an ing verb doing the job of a subject. However, it's not by itself. This gerund has a squad that goes along with it. That's what we're going to be asking as we find gerunds now is it by itself or does it have a squad? This one has at least one word that tells us more about it. So if we ask running where, away answers that question, and that means that all of a sudden running away is a gerund phrase. Those are not great sideways mustaches, but we do what we must. So in this sentence, running away, all together, this whole group of words here, the gerund plus its own modifier, all together are the subject. Running away was a mistake. Let's see the second sentence. My friends give me affection without requiring anything from me. Wow, what a wonderful way to live. All right, so we want to go through and look for prepositional phrases. That's our first kind of helper in the sentence. And so we have from me is a prepositional phrase. And then some of you might notice without. That is also a preposition. And then as we go looking for an object of that preposition, we're very quickly going to run into an ing verb that is not the main verb of the sentence. And we can go ahead and double check that. What is the sentence pattern here? Well, we've got a subject, friends. We've got a transitive verb, give. And my friends give what? They give affection, which means that's a direct object. And they give it to whom? They give it to me, and that makes it an indirect object. So we know we've got our main sentence structure here. And now we have an ing verb that's not a main verb in the sentence. It does show up after a preposition, and so it's likely that that is a prepositional phrase, and this is the object of that preposition. It's an ing verb, which we said gerunds are ing verbs, and they can do noun jobs like object of the preposition. So requiring here is an object of the preposition, but it's not by itself. Without requiring what? Anything. belongs with this gerund. So this gerund phrase, requiring anything, is actually altogether the object of this preposition. So without what? My friends give me affection without what? Without requiring anything. All of that together, those two words, the gerund and its own object, together are the object of this preposition without. Notice how we're using all the stair steps that we've built so far in the year to try to get to that spot. There's a lot that goes into getting an answer like that. Let's look at another one. Number 3, charging too much for his services was the cause of his downfall. Let's look at prepositional phrases first. You see what you see there? We've got of his downfall as a prep phrase, and we look at for his services, okay? Now we have charging too much was the cause. Those are the words we can deal with for subjects and verbs. And you're going to start noticing if you see this ing verb at the beginning, the very beginning of a sentence, it's not super normal in English for us to start with a verb. It happens sometimes. Inverted sentences will do that. But oftentimes, if you see this ing at the beginning of a sentence, that's going to indicate that this is a gerund subject. But let's kind of figure that out and check that out. Let's look for a main verb in the sentence. Charging too much was the cause. A main verb for the sentence more reliably is out this direction instead of over at the beginning. It's usually out over here. And so something was, there's our linking verb, something was a cause. And then we just backtrack and say, what was the cause? Well, it was charging, but not charging by itself. Charging too much and charging too much for his services. So this is your gerund, but all of this stuff together, this whole phrase, charging too much for his services, is all the subject of that sentence. Because what was the cause of his downfall? Well, it was charging too much for his services. All of that together. Number 8. Max's favorite pastime was lying around in a hammock. We'll talk about prepositional phrases first. That's what we always do. So here's a prep phrase, in a hammock. Notice around is sometimes a preposition, but it doesn't have an object in this case. This is just an adverb telling us he's lying where. So it doesn't have an object. The object is here for this preposition, and so that one's just an adverb. So Max's favorite pastime was lying around. Let's look for a subject. It looks like we're going to have to go with pastime for a subject because favorite describes it, Max's describes it. So pastime was is a linking verb. And then we have this ing verb here that's giving us a new name for pastime. So remember, a linking verb is like an equal sign. So pastime equals what? The pastime equals lying, but it's not just lying, it's lying around in a hammock. So there's the gerund, but it has all of the rest of this to go along with it. Everything that modifies that gerund belongs in the gerund phrase. So all of that is going to have to be the predicate noun. Pastime equals lying around in a hammock. And you can kind of naturally feel what belongs with the gerund just by asking it some questions. Lying where around, lying where in a hammock, those things naturally belong with that gerund, and that's how we know they become part of that gerund phrase. The zookeepers hated cleaning the cages. We don't have any prepositional phrases, and so we just dive into the process looking for subject and verb, and it looks like we have zookeepers as a subject and hated as an action verb. And so once we have an action verb, we're asking for a direct object. The zookeepers hated what? And you look through the rest of that sentence, they didn't hate the cages, just the cages by themselves. What did they hate? They hated cleaning. But then we recognize cleaning is not by itself. It has its own direct object. So cleaning the cages, the gerund, plus everything that goes along with it, all together is the direct object in this sentence. Zookeepers hated what? They hated cleaning the cages. That answers our direct object question, but it's just a verbal that's doing the job of that noun. Number 6, Marty earns lots of money by selling insurance policies. Again, we're looking for prepositional phrases first, so of, money. And then another prep phrase that shows up here is, well, we see by as a preposition, by, but it needs an object, and we should start to notice this ing ending. It shows up right here after the preposition, and that indicates that it's likely going to be the object of that preposition. We can always figure out an object of a preposition by asking the preposition itself, what? So Marty earns lots of what? Money is the object of that preposition. He earns lots of money by what? Well, by selling. But it's not selling by itself, it is selling insurance policies. This is the direct object for that gerund. So here's a gerund, but it has some things that go along with it to make all of this the object of the preposition by. So we've got a gerund phrase, selling insurance policies, that describes, or rather is the object of that preposition. And then Marty earns lots is a subject transitive direct object. Last one, number 7, I do not anticipate having much time for a vacation this summer. Prepositional phrases. For a vacation is one of those prepositional phrases, and then we have to start looking for subjects and verbs. And this one, we're kind of looking through, going, okay, I must be a subject. Do anticipate would be our verb phrase, and it's action. This is an action verb. So I anticipate what? Here's an ing. I anticipate having, there's our gerund direct object, but notice the things that travel along with it. I anticipate having what? Having time, right? That goes with it. Much describes time. For a vacation describes time, all right? And then we could even bring along this summer as also modifying that gerund phrase. So we've got a gerund here, and the rest of all of this describes this gerund or travels along with it. So that means this entire group of words is a direct object for this verb. I anticipate what? Having much time for a vacation this summer. All right, so lots of words all together, a gerund phrase to tell us this is the direct object for that verb.